Hello, you beautiful bastards, and welcome to my so-called show. Even though Skyfall redeemed Craig's tenure as Bond, Craig seemed to be already tired of the role, hinting that his next installment could be his final. If only he stuck to that promise.
Fuck off! Fucking dick!
So, slutty French doe-eyed babes and eye-gouging gentlemen, this is Spectre. Released in November 2015, Spectre sees Bond track down a terrorist to assassinate. But it all goes tits up, leading to Bond to take him down in a pretty fucking cool helicopter stunt and snag a fancy ring.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
M, now played by Rafe Fiennes, is pissed off Bond killed someone without his permission and suspends him. Moneypenny finds out that M actually did order Bond to kill the arsehole, the dead M, via recorded video message, similar to the guy from Scream, which leads to Bond to investigate a sinister organisation known as Spectre, headed by the not-so-sinister Blofeld. Bond seeks the help of a dying Mr. White and promises to protect his daughter in order to take down the dreaded organisation. And there's some bullshit subplot involving the Irish Moriarty from Sherlock who wants to turn the whole country into some kind of global surveillance, Orwellian dystopian nightmare, which seems kind of played out since it's already been going on for decades and was probably done a lot better in The Winter Soldier. Actually, it was done better in The Winter Soldier. And God, remember when I said I will never like another Bond movie that came after Skyfall? Well, this proved me right. Don't get me wrong, it's nowhere near as insulting as But before I get to the stuff that made me leave the cinema saying,
What the hell was that?
I'll get to the good stuff because there is still a lot to like in this movie. I was glad to see the gun barrel at the start again. The long tracking shot of Bond dressed in an attire reminiscent of Baron Samedi was a nice callback. And we saw little moments that felt like it was going back to a little bit of the fantasy that we loved from the older James Bonds, as well as a bit of mystery. Then the Sam Smith song kicked in and the rest of the movie happened, but we'll get to that later, because there are still some other good qualities. The cast are still on top form and they still have great chemistry. Rafe Fiennes manages to find the perfect balance between a hard-nosed boss and altruistic moral compass.
To pull that trigger, you have to be sure. Yes, you investigate, analyze, assess, target, and then you have to look him in the eye. And all the drones, bugs, cameras, transcripts, all the surveillance in the world can't tell you what to do next.
He doesn't top Bernard Lee or Judi Dench, but credit where it's due. Fiennes gives the role his all.
And now we know what C stands for. Careless.
Jasper Christensen returns as Mr. White, and his arc was well done. I mean, the way he's being reduced to a shell of his former self after the dismantling of Quantum actually was a good idea. He's no longer this shadowy, stoic presence who moves through the crowd unnoticed. He's now frail, sick, dying, cynical, betrayed by the people he was loyal to, and left in despair to die alone, and Casper really sells it within his short amount of screen time. I also like how this adds more layers to him, even giving him a chance to redeem himself. And he might be one of the best performances in the movie.
You're a kite dancing in a hurricane, Mr. Bond.
Sam Mendes also does a great job of the brooding visuals and does give the film a sense of atmosphere. Even the trope of Bond using his gadgets during car chases, giving a comedic spin where every attempt to dispatch his adversaries ends up with this. It's funny and also puts Bond in a vulnerable situation where he has to adapt. I even like the silent henchman cliche being utilised again, this time with Dave Bautista as the hulking, eye-gouging, psychotic Mr. Hinks. And just like Jaws, he seems to miraculously survive a lot of incidents. Not only that, he and Bond get to have a really cool train fight, and man, it is one of the few moments in the movie where I was genuinely scared for Bond. It's brutal, visceral, and Bautista doesn't fuck about. He's not as memorable as Oddjob or Jaws, but he still came across threatening. Sadly, the same can't be said for Christoph Waltz as Obenhauer/Blofeld. This is a really talented actor who was born to play this role, and yet he's dull. Don't get me wrong, he's better than Green, but despite his best attempts, the script gives him nothing to work with to make him threatening. For some reason, the powers that be thought, hey, let's retcon the events of the other films and make out that Blofeld was the one who orchestrated it all.
It's always been me, the author of all your pain.
No.
All because Blofeld's dad loved Bond more.
Cuckoo.
Are you fucking serious? So let me get this straight. Blofeld decided to become a megalomaniacal psychotic head of a secret Illuminati-style organization all because Bond was the favourite. Fuck you, Spectre, how dare you waste a great actor? This was the first time seeing this character in decades because of the bullshit involving Kevin McClory. And when you finally get him back, you reduce him to this bullshit. A jealous, petty pussy. Actually, come to think about it, they ripped off Austin Powers' Goldmember. Yeah.
He ain't heavy. He's my brother, baby.
You took the idea from the very thing, spoofing your franchise, and put it into your franchise and expected us to take it seriously. Fuck, I hate this movie. Not only that, him being the author of all of Bond's pain or something doesn't make sense, and it doesn't really come across as if it was even planned that way for the franchise in the first place. This should have been their first encounter with Blofeld already being familiar with Bond's reputation, and the plot should have been completely separate from the events of the previous entries. Which is what I thought we were coming back to, since Skyfall's plot had nothing to do with Casino Royale and the other that apparently exists. In fact, as soon as we get to Blofeld's desert hideout, the movie seems to just not care anymore. We get a torture scene where a device could render Bond to lose the ability to recognise anyone, but it fucking goes nowhere. Then he busts out super easy, with barely an inconvenience, gunning down a shitload of guys as if someone entered the God mode cheat coding in.
It jumped up a notch.
It did, didn't it?
Dumb inconveniences pop up to make the rest of the film happen. There's even that dumb surveillance plot with C that feels like an unnecessary subplot that could have been cut out and we wouldn't have lost anything. The movie also seems to prop up Lea Seydoux' Miss Swan as the one who shows Bond he can have a normal life and that she's the one for him, but she and Craig have no chemistry. It doesn't help that Swan is pretty fucking dull as well. She looks bored in every scene. In Casino Royale, Craig and Green had some witty back and forth to work with, and there's none of that here. She bigs herself up that she can take care of herself, yet gets captured twice. This is a very talented actress who played a convincing femme fatale in Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, and it's a shame the script gives her nothing to work with as well. In fact, Monica Bellucci had no chemistry with Craig, yet quickly gets pushed aside. And you know what? How about change the plot where he had to protect her instead in order for her to help him bring down Spectre? It would have meant losing Mr. White, but probably would have made the film a little bit more better. Maybe. Probably not. And lastly, after the awesome Adele gave us The Brood in Skyfall, we are followed up with this. Dear fucking God, don't get me wrong, parts of the music isn't bad, but as soon as Sam Smith does that fucking whiny eunuch singing, I just can't take it seriously. Especially when the title sequence looks like something out of those creepy hentai videos. And don't ask me how I know that. This had very talented people behind the camera, but with the way this movie was going, you'd think there was a lack of communication creatively. It's all over the place. It returns the Bondisms we loved from the older movies, yet still wants to make this a darker, brooding Jason Bourne type thriller. And this came out a few months after Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, that was a much superior movie that showed spy thrillers could still be fun and have that sense of adventure. Christ, the movie spin-off of a TV show inspired by James Bond was now better than the very thing that inspired it. He was the one that made me realise just how overrated Craig was in the role and made me want to go back to the older movies that could balance the dark with the romanticism. Christ, even the hard-boiled and bloody License to Kill had some colourful characters to add some levity. And even Dalton had some passion playing the fucking role as James Bond, while Craig just looks fucking bored here, even stating in an interview he'd rather slit his wrists than play James Bond again. But with a script like this, I kinda don't blame him, and this should have been his last appearance as Bond, especially since he gets to drive off into the sunset with the woman he loves. So despite the talented cast, some decent action and strong direction, it's a miserable, disjointed mess that plods along without a spectre of consistency.
'Cause the writing's on.
So that was Spectre, and since I've already reviewed No Time to Die last year, I was pondering whether to re-review it. But since this is 007 month, and for the sake of consistency, join me tomorrow as I end my 007 month with my re-review of the final Bond movie, No Time to Die. And who knows, another rewatch could change my opinion. Probably. Not really. Fuck.